The next skill we'll take a look at here is skill number 4, which is the search and recovery scenario. So this here gives you a great opportunity to give your candidates exposure to different elements of search and recovery diving and how those relate to life as a dive master, right? So here you want to be able to set up various search and recovery scenarios or stations even that allow dive master candidates to complete the performance requirements here that are listed in the instructor manual section, right? So there's a few things they need to cover in here, demonstrating a search of an area to find a small submerged object, which we'll talk about here a little bit more. And things like this you can use are something like a brightly colored weight, or possibly a non-expensive pair of sunglasses, right? And then you want to counsel your candidates on the most appropriate search pattern to use when searching for a small object, right? And then again, planning that with their buddy and then going in and executing to hopefully eventually find this object. So an opportunity here to dry workshop this on land first is definitely advised, right? So that'll help get the kinks out and you can jump in more as an instructor to help coach them on the right pathway. You also want to have them demonstrate a search of an area to find an object that weighs less than 11 kilograms or 25 pounds and it's negatively buoyant. So that could be a larger object, right? So perhaps a rigged weight belt with that amount or less weight on it for them to find. And again, giving them a visual reference of what that might look like, what the best search pattern is to find that particular object, right? Which would differ from a small object search pattern. And then ensuring that they have an opportunity to potentially dry workshop that as well before getting into the water, right? Other things that they need to complete here are tying knots as well, right? So again, as part of maybe recovering that larger object, they may need to rig a lift bag. So again, having practice with that, specifically in a confined water environment first, and maybe running them through a dry workshop for that as well, is definitely advisable here since there's a lot of moving parts and which knots might be most appropriate for rigging a lift bag, right? So you can bring in things like the PADI app, which have that knot review on there. Obviously the cue cards as well, even back to the adventures and diving cue cards have some information on knot tying there. But importantly, you want to make sure that you're using line or rope that is realistic, right? And an appropriate thickness, right? So obviously leave the dental floss at home. You want to ensure that you have something that's of appropriate thickness for them to safely rig whatever it is they need to rig, right? So this is an example of climbing line. You could also use what you might use for a descent line, something of that nature, which is realistic, right? And then you need to tie all 3 knots, the bowline, 2 half hitches, and a sheet bend. So having different aids available, this is one that you can create yourself. Again, the PADI app also has the videos, which would be even better, that help kind of explain how each knot is tied and what its use case is for. And then eventually they'll need to demonstrate how to safely rig and bring to the surface that object which is 25 pounds or less, right? Using an appropriate lifting device. So again, having opportunity to workshop that in a confined water environment or in a dry environment first is going to be helpful for you and for them prior to. Some other points here are, candidates who have a PADI Search and Recovery Diver certification may be credited with completing some of these skills here, but this is an opportunity for you to really think about linking courses options here to give your dive master candidates more skills that they can carry forward as divers and dive professionals. So building in the search and recovery specialty course as part of your dive master training will cover this skill number 4 requirement here. And then they also get the certification as a search and recovery diver, right? So kind of 2 birds with 1 stone there while giving them more value, right? It's likely that they're going to be involved in a search and recovery situation at some point as a certified diver, especially as a dive professional. So this is a fun one to spend some time with and kind of run through these different scenarios and finding different objects. And you can kind of make this a really fun sort of tool to break the ice a little bit more, build on team cohesion, and get them to really start to think outside the box as dive professionals.